Welcome, everyone. We have my special guest, Tony Blauer of the Spear System. I'm sure you've heard of the Spear System, and today we're going to be talking about the science of self-defense, and I can't wait to get started. So let's not waste any more time. Welcome to the show, Tony.
How you doing, Doc? Good to see you again.
Likewise, my friend. It's been a little while, but I'm really excited to talk to you again and get more into the philosophy, the science of self-defense. It's such a great conversation with you. Tony, let's do this first of all. Some people may not be familiar with Spear System. There's a couple out there, I think I heard. What is the Spear System? Guide us through that first, and then we'll get into the science of self-defense.
Sure. So just some background. I've been teaching 43 years, started teaching back in 1977. And like many people who are involved in martial arts and self-defense, you gravitate to arts that kind of resonate with your personality and things you like. Your boxing, and these days, of course, a lot of MMA, a lot of jiu-jitsu. But back in the 70s and 80s, it was Taekwondo, it was boxing, it was kickboxing, Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do. So, as a teenager, I explored all of that stuff. 1980, I already started teaching in 77. And one of my students got his butt kicked in a fight. And the way it happened, when he described it to me, he said this guy dropped him with a left hook. And I was like, Mitch, why didn't you slip? Why didn't you parry? Why didn't you do any of the movements that we were teaching? And he looked at me, he goes, well, it happened in school. And I had grabbed him, he had shoved me, and I had grabbed him, and I was holding my books and his shirt, and then he hit me. And as he described this, and he's holding, look at this position. Could you imagine if you had to go box right now, and you had to hold the guy's jersey and hold something in your hand? I mean, how long till somebody just drills you in the face, right? So I make this joke that was like the god of self-defense in 1980-ish hit me with a lightning bolt, and I had this like this light bulb moment. Oh my God, we teach self-defense wrong. And I said it collectively, and I said it respectfully. At 20 years old, some people might think that was grandiose, but it was a vision that all true self-defense should be taught through the lens of what is the scenario, what is actually going on, because that would inform the moral, ethical, and legal parameters of what you could do, what you should do. It would also reveal, when you started talking about the scenario, what your emotional, psychological preparation needed to be, or where you were lacking, depending on how you were evaluating. And so that day started, literally that lesson, where I was doing private lessons at the time, literally in that moment, I said, Mitch, I pointed at his desk. I said, are those your books from school today? He's like, yeah. I said, grab them and grab me like I was the guy. I didn't use the word replicate or reverse engineer back then, but that's what we did. And, I had him, grab me, showed me what the guy did, and he showed me how he moved. Then I grabbed the books and I started to figure out what were we thinking? What was going on? And it was amazing. It was amazingly insightful. And that day forward, every single class I did started off with the question, what is their scenario we're working on? Think about this. Everyone on this call who's into martial arts or self-defense probably knows how to get out of a headlock. And you're familiar with your 10,000 hours and 10,000 reps metaphor. And Macklemore, of course, made that famous with his song, but it was actually Malcolm Gladwell that made it famous with his book. I believe it was Tipping Point, but it was based on research from a researcher named Erickson in Europe, who did all this work. And what I do is I distill this stuff to make it in layperson's terms. You don't do all the research. If you do 10,000 reps of anything, you're going to get good at that. And I tell people, you need to be careful you don't get good at the wrong thing. Some people misinterpret that as me criticizing whether they're doing jiu-jitsu or Krav Maga or boxing. And what I'm really talking about, and you can appreciate this, is the neuroscience, that neurotransmitters become myelinated through repetition. And the myelin sheath is what facilitates a faster transfer of the messaging in the brain, to make it simple. So think about your myelin sheath as like electrical tape around wires. You want to make that really tight and clean, and so that the current transfers. But the current is what you practice. It's the data. It's that stream. And so the idea The idea here is this, is if I only ever box, I am training my neurotransmitters to solve my self-defense problems with my fists. If I only do Taekwondo, I'm training, myself to solve the problem with my kicking. I'm simplifying this because we all create an unconscious bias because of how we practice. And this is just neuroscience. It's not personal. It's not ego. It's just, it manifests as ego on the internet, of course. I just did a post today that you might find interesting, is the title of it, Can Your Love of Martial Arts Make You Less Safe? And what I was talking about is we create this unconscious bias where I'm only fixating on weapon skills. I'm only fixating on ground skills. And in reality, the bad guy controls the fight. And what do I mean by that? Is the bad guy picks the time and the location. You have to create the solution. And so as this is like a long answer to what is the science of self-defense, is I created a list, a kind of a checklist of what are the things that we need to be thinking about in terms of our personal toolbox, our situational awareness, our not just our tactical fitness, but our tactical mental fitness. The most significant thing when a stimulus is introduced too quickly, your body's survival system hijacks executive function, cognitive thinking. And you understand this, and I share this. If you're really listening with an open mind, this next minute can enhance your safety in a big way. Your cognitive brain is where you keep your theoretical answers. I ask an MMA guy, what would you do at an ATM? A guy goes to mug you. Immediately your brain goes, oh, well, when I had my chance, I'd shoot under, double leg him, take him on the ground, ground and pound him, choke him out, whatever it is. If I ask somebody who's a Taekwondo guy, you got a problem at an ATM, what are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna create space, I'm gonna kick this, I'm gonna do that. We unconsciously look to our systems that we fall in love with for these solutions to the problem in the outside world. Nothing wrong with that, unless it's not what you need. In a really, truly dangerous encounter, what you're looking for is the safest, most efficient response at all times, and one that is also, if you're living in the modern world, morally, ethically, legally sound. So that's kind of like the umbrella of everything we do when we design our training. And we can explain the why of all of that. But getting back into why do we call this the science of self-defense? At the movement level, the human movement level, there's a natural way the body moves when it's confronted by danger. The first thing the body does is tries to protect the command center. And if somebody throws a punch at me, if somebody tries to strike me with an improvised weapon, if I'm surprised by that, and even if I'm not, you will see this in professional fighters, in law enforcement and military. You'll see micro flinches. These hands come up, fingers splay, cover the head, push away danger. You see that in trained experts, and you see that in untrained citizens. The commonality is the physiology. The cross-extensor reflex has a default program at a DNA level to protect the command center, push away. In fact, in a book on neuroanatomy that we cite in one of our courses, it talks about that this startle flinch response is designed to disengage from noxious stimuli, which is fancy speak for push away from dangerous, like a dangerous stimulus. What I did is I discovered this in the mid 80s, and I figured out a way to turn the startle flinch into a protective and tactical option, depending on when you pick it up and how fast your mind can process stuff. What I talk about is your reptilian brain hijacks executive function in a high stress situation. So someone says, you and I have an argument, and I get up, and all of a sudden I'm coming across the table with a punch, and you're like going, whoa, and your hands are like that. How quickly can you recalibrate? In other words, how quickly can your cognitive brain executive function go sudden attack? And what I figured out is a way to blend what our reactive brain is going to do without our permission with some cueing, classical conditioning, fingers splayed outside 90. How do we drive this? If you look at the gestures that my hand's doing, I'm building this push away danger. I actually refer to this now as an organic airbag that that if you shove me or go to hit me or go to attack me, that the hands will come up and they deploy much like an organic airbag, like an airbag would in a car. What an amazing thing. And because this is built on physiology, and then the position we drive to with the finger splayed, what I'm doing with my pinky, how I'm contracting my hand, where I'm driving to, I'm not going straight arm, I'm keeping my arms in the shape of a spear. And this frame, if you think about like, what is the oldest building in the world that still stood the test of time and all erosion of all the elements of the pyramids? What is the shape of a pyramid? It's that triangle, right? So when I flinch like this and I drive towards the threat, I'm taking this pyramid shape here, which is the strongest geometric shape there is. So I'm taking the physiology of the startle flinch with the natural biomechanics and my understanding of physics, and I'm compounding that. I'm creating this almost this glue with the psychological understanding that this is a choiceless choice. I've got to penetrate the attack, and I've got to manage my fear. So when someone asks me like what are all the elements, what are the ingredients, I tease and I say, if this was like the box that says spear inside, and the ingredients are on the side, like a box of cereal, it says all organic, physiology, physics, psychology. And so it doesn't matter gender, it doesn't matter age. I mean, age, obviously, you're too young, you're too old, but it doesn't really matter age or occupation. Anybody can learn this because the ingredients that make it work, you carry around with you at all times. So that's why we refer to it as the science of self-defense.
Let me ask you this, Tony. I got a couple questions for you already. Just listening to great stuff. First thing, if you have Krav Maga, let's say you're training in Krav Maga, you're training in Jiu-Jitsu, you're training in Taekwondo. It sounds like to me the flinch response. That sounds like the preliminary step first, and then you can incorporate what you've learned next. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So well, there's a couple of things. Listen, our focus as a company is pure self-defense, and my clients are elements of the Department of Defense, all aspects of law enforcement. It has been for decades, and we teach all over the world. We also have a division that works just with self-defense instructors who want to bring our system into their schools or into their training. So we have hundreds of affiliates around the world. Well, they're all like MMA, Thai boxing, Krav Maga. They recognize that our approach to scenario-based training is going to make their students safer, and also for continuing education, professional development. But to specifically answer your question, because I wanted to make it clear that like I make this joke, if you don't weather the ambush, you don't get to your next move. Your next move is your complex motor skill. Remember, your cognitive brain is where you hold your theoretical answers to solving problems, right? So, you're a jiu-jitsu guy. I go, what do you do here? You go, well, I'm going to take the guy to the ground and then I'm going to submit him, right? A jiu-jitsu guy is not going to say, I'm going to do a spinning back fist and drop him, right? So it's like, we end up like just it's that the echo chamber of that narrative of what is our system, what is our art. But you're 100% correct. The people who train with us who have really developed their other skills, we say the SPEAR system, and I never told people what the acronym is. So SPEAR is an acronym. It stands for Spontaneous Protection, Enabling Accelerated Response. Spontaneous protection refers to your startle flinch. Accelerated response is understanding how we take that kinetic energy that's created by the flinch, that when I flinch, I inhale and I contract. How do I release that energy into that threat or into that attack? My movement, you guys can see this is a really heavy water ball, but I can be standing here. I'm actually sitting on a chair here, and if I flinch and I come up and and I hit that thing, there's a tremendous amount of core to extremity energy in there. If somebody's leaning over me and goes to grab me, and I'm like, oh, boom, and I step in that's the split jerk of self-defense. You can see the impact and the force of this ball. You saw how it disappeared, like at a frame. If I hit it with a hook punch and I'm seated, that's a smash with like a quick overhand. The impact of that double palm, core to extremity coming out of my hips was 8 or 10 times more impactful than that. But this is to learn how to throw a punch and turn it over and make a fist is a complex motor skill. This movement of driving away danger, like the organic airbag, it's a primal gross motor move. I can show that to anybody. And so if I was a jiu-jitsu expert, a taekwondo expert, a Krav expert, and I'm sitting here minding my own business, I'm at a bar, I'm at a restaurant, and a guy comes over, and I'm trying to legally, morally, ethically diffuse it, and then he goes to sucker punch me or goes to grab me, everybody, regardless of their love of style, can go start a flinch. Oh man, where did this come from? The airbag deploys, and then if you know the movement patterns that we're teaching, slamming that, and then if you hit the guy in the sternum, he falls back, right? If I hit him, depending on the threat level, remember moral, ethical, legal, if I hit him in the face, I just turned him into a Pez dispenser. Imagine that impact that I just hit this with, hitting somebody up under the jawline. So I can, if you guys can see the Bob bounty, I can go, pop, and like the impact on that is huge, the impact on that is huge, but I can change the lethality of my impact by targeting. So if a guy's got a weapon, I can drive that same motion up towards the head, neck area. If I don't know what's happening and I'm just trying to create space so I can run or threat assess, I can hit the center mass. So the answer, you're 100% right, it's a great question. Spear, we in fact, this is a maxim we've had since the late 80s, early 90s. The spear system is a bridge to your next move. Your next move is the art that you love. So we're really trying to create a harmonious relationship with other martial arts around the world, recognizing I've done 43 years studying violence, fear, and aggression, and figured out a scenario system that we call the 3 R's: realistic, relevant, and rigorous. And it all funnels through this. What's the scenario? What will happen to me at a physiological level first? What's the psychological systems I need to self-regulate, maintain that resiliency, get back in the fight? And then once I've weathered the ambush, is my Krav the answer? Is my jiu-jitsu the answer? Is my taekwondo the answer? To me, I always tell people we're options facilitators. As long as what you're doing is moral, ethical, and legal, you're good to go. But you got to weather the ambush.
Great stuff. Again, let me make sure the audience, folks, if you want to make a comment or ask questions, please let us know. You're on the chat right now, so you can go ahead and send Tony your questions. If you want to find more about Tony, you can go to Tony Blauer on Instagram. You can find him there. He's got much more information about what he's doing, and he posts the latest stuff that he's doing as well. You can also find him at blauer.high.gear. Spear.systems, another Instagram handle. If you want to find out more information about it. He's also got a Know Your Fear. I think I'll actually make sure it's Know Your Fear. It's Know Fear Podcast, KNOW Fear Podcast. Deep, thoughtful talks. You can definitely listen to more insight from Tony Blauer. He's been doing this for decades, folks. So I highly recommend check him out on Instagram. He's trained, if I'm correct, Tony, you've trained law enforcement, special forces, MMA fighters, you name it. You've trained everybody in the gamut.
Yeah. What's interesting with that is, like people ask me, how is that possible? And, I can train literally like, the proverbial, soccer mom, the unathletic dad who just, who's just a business traveler, all the way up to tier 1. Because we're not teaching people how to throw punches. We're not teaching people like the biomechanics. We're teaching them about the relationship between self-awareness and situational awareness. We're teaching them about mental fitness and resiliency. The whole fear management, we spell, we have a program called No Fear, and it's spelled KNOW, No Fear. It's about looking at fear differently and learning how to use it as a fuel, as opposed to like foe or the, a lot of people when they think of fear, they experience fear, it's like, man, I just got really scared, or it's like a derogatory or a negative connotation. And so we've got a whole program based around that, changing your relationship with fear, turning into fuel. And if you do that, you change everything. And everybody, if they're honest, if they've got good self-awareness, can recognize and acknowledge that. And I've worked with tons of people who go, no, I got no fear. And I got people who go, yeah, man, of course I was afraid, but I'm trained and this is what I decided to do. I really believe that is like a secret ingredient to making anything happen in a high stress situation is your ability to manage fear. So there's if you said to me, all physical, doing scenarios, or just the fear management, you could only pick one, I would tell people that there is evidence, Doc. If I ask you, do you know of any stories of, in the law enforcement, military, private security, professional bodyguard, of these trained men and women that have been compromised, captured, injured, or worse in the line of duty? Yes. If the answer is obviously yes. If trained men and women who are trained to hunt bad guys can get ambushed, caught off guard, what about you and I that don't? That's not our calling, right? So the way I look at this is I go, like, the most dangerous, like all, one of our maxims, what is, all confrontations are dangerous, but the most dangerous one is the ambush. The ambush does something different to our parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system connection. And you see it. I can show you pictures of MMA fighters flinching. I can show you pictures of military law enforcement flinching in confrontation. At that moment, the reactive brain, the fear spike, has hit the body. And so, excuse me one second. In that moment, the most important thing is your self-awareness and understanding that you're in this fear loop. What are you going to do? And that's that choiceless choice. So I argue, in hopefully a provocative way, that a lot of us, including myself for a long time, would immerse in the physical. Hit me again, throw that again. Let's do this again. More reps. The reps we don't do are the emotional, psychological reps. Think about how many punches you've thrown in your life, but how many times you've actually been in a confrontation versus how many times you've actually sparred or hit a bag. Like, the numbers are ridiculous. So we end up creating this overconfidence, I believe. We need to find that balance. And the balance is, I think where you kind of went down a deep rabbit hole, but where, going to circle back out and throw a life preserver and save me here, is where I'm talking about is when you start to look at things only through a scenario filter, you start to realize, if I said to you, I want you to run into this building and I want you to run up these stairs and I want you to escort these people out and save them. And you did one rep and you were tired. I go, hey man, your aerobic capacity is horrible. Like, I need you running stairs. You go, why can't I run flat? I go, because you're a fireman. You're always going into buildings. I need you running stairs. You're not going to stand at the elevator. So we can create scenario-specific conditioning to replicate. The hardest problem you're going to have isn't going to be, like a ranch house. It's going to be a tall building, right? So we can do aerobic stuff. We can put on gear. We can do weight stuff. You can drag hoses. Now, I can teach you about structure, and I can teach you, like, this is like, don't go into a building that looks like this. And then I can say 9/11, right? Now think about what I just did there. We can be conditioned. We can understand the building. We can do our job. We're being courageous. But when you put in the condition of this building is on fire and it's going to collapse soon, and you've got men and women still going in and out trying to save people, that's fear management at that point. It's not technique. And I try to explain this to people that all of us, any type A athlete, you, me, everyone listening to this, we keep our theoretical idea, like, no, I would do this and I would do that. And then there are people, when it comes time to do it, that hesitate. Doubt becomes hesitation. Hesitation becomes procrastination. Procrastination becomes fixation. That's the fear loop. And there are people that, can't get their hand off their weapon. Yeah. And then there are people that can. And there are people who, like, I've debriefed a lot of people going, why didn't you do something then physically? And they were like, I don't know, I just kept seeing this. And what they're describing is they choked under pressure. It happens to pro athletes, it happens to business people, it happens to actors. And so my biggest fascination in the last few years is decoding this this connection between fear and performance. It's fascinating to me.
Let me ask you this. I got a couple of questions too. I wanted to ask you quickly in regards to situational awareness, as you mentioned. And folks, again, you can chat here. You can find him, Tony Blauer. If you want to support our show, make sure to share and subscribe. We truly appreciate it. Let me ask you this, Tony. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. First of all, is there certain movements that somebody would do that would cause a flinch more so than others? In other words, somebody blading you, somebody showing their fist, somebody getting really close to you. I also wanted to talk to you about that too, because I see this a lot of times. You see these videos of people get head to head. And
Right.
There's no distance whatsoever.
Right.
And to me, it's like, this is remarkable. I guess I haven't watched any kind of self-defense, but I'll backpedal for a second. Is there any kind of movement that we naturally flinch to faster?
So there are three stimuli that trigger a flinch in the body: auditory, visual, tactile. Things you hear, things you see, things you feel. And like if you hate spiders, if I'm sitting here like this and all of a sudden I think I feel a spider crawling on my head or my ear or something, what the hell? Like right? You walk into a shed or you're on a walk and you walk into a spider web, right? What do you do when you walk into a spider web? You immediately, all of a sudden, suddenly you're like, whoa, right? You're like you're never cool when you walk into a spider web. Nobody. If you and I are on a hike and I walk into a spider web, I don't turn to you and go, "Hey, doc, I got it for you." I'm like, ew, what is that, right? Why I'm giving this example is this: if you turn around and there's a butterfly just flying by your peripheral vision, you might go, "Hey guys, let's go this way." And there's a butterfly flitting by here. You might go, "Whoa!" Your head startled flinches away from it, because I define, again, I try to make things like layperson terms. Any stimulus that's introduced too quickly can trigger a flinch. Are there factors and conditions? Yeah, if you're half asleep, if you're drunk, if you've been, you just woke up, and there could be like a spider or a bad guy here. You're clearing your eyes. You're like, what's this? Like there are conditions that will render this startle flinch effect, useless or not as acute as when we are alert or thinking, right? So the definition we use is a stimulus that gets introduced too quickly can startle. The operative word can startle, can trigger startle flinch. We augment that if you have a contrarian in the audience who goes, "Well, I was once, and what about this?" Like somebody who's trying to find the flaw. If the stimulus represents a potential threat to you physically, so listen, a slow punch versus a fast, violent punch. We looked at speed, aggression, and proximity are factors when we do stuff. So if I'm standing here like this at this distance from you, and I go, "Doc, oh man, and I throw a punch at you." I mean, it looks like I'm 15 feet away from you. You're going to go, "What's this guy doing?" And I walk closer and I go, "Wow," and I throw a punch at you. And you're like, you're leaning back, but you're not flinching because your brain understands proximity sense. That can't hit me. If I got closer and closer and jumped in here, and you actually thought I was going to come through the screen, I recognize we're on YouTube right now through Zoom. You might go, "Whoa!" There's a classic video that we show in our class of a kid. He's about 8 or 9 years old, and you might have seen it. He's trying with a mouse to track something, and it's a setup on a screen. He's trying to track like a game with a mouse, and then all of a sudden, like a scary, vicious, monster-looking zombie pops in, and it's the whole size of the I should pull it up and show it to you. I'll send you a link to it so you can maybe insert it or link it. But the kid's like this going, "Why can't I move this?" And he's like this looking in here, and he's trying to figure out this progression. And all of a sudden this creature jumps out, and the kid freaks. He goes, "Ah!" and he hits the screen, he pushes away, he stands up, the zombie's going, ah, and he's totally been transported into this is his new reality. And why I bring this up, and we've been showing it for years, is it's a stimulus getting introduced too quickly that you believe represents a threat to you. And he's like not trained in spear, but what's he doing? His hands come up, he pushes away danger. That's the airbag deploying to push away the threat. He moves back, he screams, the zombie's still there. He actually steps in and hits the monitor again, and he's just doing this. And then he runs out, he's crying, he's freaking out. And there's tons of videos like that where, you know, the pranksters are scaring people and they're flinching. They go viral all the time. But, you know, you ask a great question. Are there things that can trigger a flinch? You can have a fake graphic, you know, make you fall off your chair, right? You just have to believe it. And so the body always errs on the side of survival. If you were playing golf somewhere and you hit the ball into the tall grass, and as you went to lean over to pick it up, you saw a stick that might look like a snake, your brain doesn't correct to the side of danger. It doesn't go, that could be a snake, but I think it's a stick. It always goes, that looks like a snake, and there's a micro flinch. You reach for the ball and you're like, whoa. And then you go, it's a stick. In other words, your body's survival system, it wants to think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What's the bottom tier on that, again, here's that triangle again, right? It's survival and procreation. At a cellular level, we are human weapon systems, right? We are designed to continue evolving, and we don't want bad stuff to happen to us. So that's kind of a longer, deeper answer. Sorry, I went off. I get a little passionate about this stuff.
No, it's a good stuff. And there's a couple of things you actually brought up, and I want to talk about. I know we have about a few more minutes left, and I wanted to talk about holidays, shopping, and stuff like that. Believe it or not, I want to relate it to self-defense. Before we do that, folks, we have some great guests coming up this week. Tomorrow, I think we might have Del Spiegel. If not, it's going to be Dr. Steffi Cohen talking about fitness and health. On Thursday, we're going to have Andrew Bringle, FBI profiler, and Friday, we will have Ernest Emerson talking more about the psychology of fear. I'm going to go back to Tony. Tony, one of the things I wanted to discuss in regards to shopping, because it sounds like the spear system could actually be effective. For instance, if somebody goes to their car in the parking lot, which we talk a lot about situational awareness on the videos here on YouTube, you guys can catch that later. When we talk about that, you're going to your car, you should always scan the area, right? But when you get to your car, you drop your bags off and you turn around and somebody's coming towards you. A lot of times we've heard, put your hand up, tell them to stop, especially if you feel like there's a threat and your intuition kicks in. Does the spear system actually, would it be effective there just to put both hands up and say, hey, please stop, don't come any closer?
So think about this. So just to get a little bit deeper, the spear system is truly just the study of the startle flinch and its protective or tactical applications for us, right? Inside, underneath all of that, so I look at that as sudden ambush triggers this. How do I then convert that into a protective maneuver that creates time and space where I can psychologically get in control of myself, physically try to dominate the threat, and then figure out what to do. So there's 4 stages in confrontation management. One is you need to know that you're about to step on the X, right? So we talk about situational awareness, get off the X, let the bang, all those thoughts. But the reality is it still happens to even the best trained people, which means I want something once that happens. It's easy to say head on the swivel, improve your situational awareness, but that doesn't help us when something happens. So when something happens, what immediately will occur at a physiological level is you get a fear spike, and we know that the reactive brain can mess with our cognitive brain. We see that all the time. You look at any dashboard video, CCTV, nobody looks cool in a real fight. You look at real violence and nobody looks like they're in the dojo.
You don't look like John Wick? I thought you looked like John Wick.
No, that's unfortunately, I wish, but unfortunately not, right? And that's a big thing. People don't want to hear that. I go, do your own homework. And when you do your homework, be sure that you're researching violent encounters, not jerks with egos. Like you talked about, like guys like head to head, nose to nose, going better off with Bob, standing here like this, going, hey man, and then the guy goes slap and sucker punches you. I mean, like those are ego fights. That I don't. When people send me videos and they go, "Hey, could you evaluate this for self-defense?" I go, "That's not a self-defense scenario." What do you mean they're fighting? Don't confuse fighting with self-defense, folks. A lot of martial artists, a lot of people in the industry, in the community make that mistake, right?
Absolutely.
I teach a one-day course called Be Your Own Bodyguard, and we teach people how to defend themselves in a day. And there are people who hate me for that. They go, "That's ridiculous. You can't do that. What a fraud. What a scam." But listen, how long does it take you to do a tactical first aid course taught by a paramedic? How long is that course taught? You know?
I think it's about, it depends. The first aid, about 8 hours, 6 hours.
Yeah, that's a long one. Most of them are 4 hours. In 4 to 6 hours, you can learn tactical first aid delivered by a professional paramedic. And if I ask that paramedic, is that person skilled and equipped and out enough to save a life? Can they do mouth to mouth? Can they do chest compressions? Can they put on a tourniquet? Yes. Are those life-saving skills? Yes. Is that person a paramedic? Of course not. Is that person a doctor? Of course not. I can teach you to use a fire extinguisher in 5 minutes. Can knowing how to use a fire extinguisher and having one in your house save your family? Of course. Could it save your property? Yes. Are you a firefighter? No. So when I tell people that I took decades of my research, I said D1, detect and avoid, D2, defuse and de-escalate, D3, defend. Primal gross motor movement, it's an organic response, how to push away danger. It's the strongest thing you can do, whether you're a black belt or a beginner. This motion is the strongest thing you can do. I'll teach you how to do it. You already know how to do it. What I'm going to teach you is about violence-free and aggression and how to flip that switch, how to find that indignation. And we've been teaching this literally for 20 years, right? Called Be Your Own Bodyguard. Well, when people hear about it, they lose their mind. And I tell them, don't confuse learning a martial art, which is a lifetime of practice. And I'm a martial artist. I love martial arts. With learning the simple strategies of self-defense as a citizen, as a trying to be a courageous citizen, or somebody who just wants to be a parent, able to protect their family or an individual, right? And so I wanted to go when you asked me about, hey, I'm shopping. Can Spirit help me? The philosophy of choosing safety, I don't teach people how to fight. I teach them how to not fight. Listen, but I also have, programs where we're working with SWAT teams and elite military units, right? That's very different than what I'm talking about. But the reason we can create these programs for people, regardless of their occupation and their area of operation, is because it's all based on those, what I said in the beginning, organic ingredients. Everyone has to deal with their physiology and incorporate it. Physiology rules. Physiology bypasses all muscle memory, and muscle memory doesn't exist in the truest sense. Muscles don't have memory, right? Physics and natural movement dictates everything, how we do things, right? And then most importantly, probably the most neglected area is mental tactical fitness, right? And that is our understanding of psychology. How do I metacognition? How do I coach myself? How do I think about thinking? So when you say, and I can never give a simple answer like, hey, can we use the spear in a parking lot? Yeah, of course. But it's recognizing that I've now been put in a choiceless choice. What do I know about self-awareness and situational awareness? What do I know about this person in front of me? And does everything change? If someone wants to grab my car, bad guys only want one of three things: property, body, or life. If something happens in a parking lot, what do they want? Property, body, or life. Well, it could be anyone. It could be, now that you're here with the keys to your car, I want your car. But what if your kid's in the back seat already and they're going to steal your car? You standing outside going, take my car? Or now suddenly this is a hostage rescue event, right? And then if somebody goes, you just got in the car and they hop in the car beside you with a gun or a knife and they're like, drive, right? What do you do? So property, body, or life, it gets scary. So when you start thinking like that, what's the most important thing? Is it like some move I learned from Tony, or is it mindset, fear management? Do I have de-escalation strategies? Can I talk my way out of this? Can I distract this person? If I need to go and I need to charge the attacker right now, what is the simplest thing I could do? So yeah, there's huge application, but it's one of those answers that is near impossible to convey intelligently on like a YouTube video right now.
Absolutely. That's another thing too. We see that a lot. Folks, we're down to our last minute or two here. If you want to ask any questions to Tony, please do that right now in the chat. Thank you for everybody who's been on watching. I truly appreciate it. Tony, Tony made a great point too. A lot of times people watch videos on YouTube and then they think they're experts all of a sudden in certain martial arts. Certain videos are very good. I have to admit, I'm a big fan of Renner Gracie.
Sure.
Some of his videos, he does really good breakdowns. But either way, Tony, in the last minute or two, yes, sir. You were going to say
I was going to say, like the Gracies are amazing at what they do, but they're breaking down the grappling part, right? And they're the best in the world at instructing that, teaching that, demoing that. They've proven it in competition under duress. They train law enforcement. So there's a ton you could learn. But I encourage everybody to go check out the Instagram post I actually made last night on my page at Tony Blauer or Spear.system, where I talk about, there are things you need to be thinking about. How do I practice courage? How do I choose safety? How do I make sure that my ego or my pride doesn't put me in more danger when really I should be moving away from the danger right now? There's a whole other holistic universe that isn't really discussed or taught in what I call responsible self-defense. If you're just practicing the physical, that's like going, it's the old adage, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? There's lots of other soft skills that we don't even think about. And in this day and age, with everything going on around the world, people need to be thinking like a little bit more 360 degree, not just about the physical.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. In regards to what's going on right now, there's so much going on. People have to be really alert and paying attention to what's happening, especially if you get yourself in the wrong environment or whatnot. Tony, again, make sure everybody knows it. Tony Blauer, go to Instagram to find him there. You can find the Spear System as well as Instagram. Anywhere else you want to send the people to, Tony?
Yeah, we just, during the last few months, we had a lot of time to kind of revamp the system to stay relevant. I teach now 5 days a week out of here. My garage gym. In fact, I call it the garage gym class. And I didn't realize this. I hated the name because everyone thought we were just going to be doing like intense workouts, like lifting and stuff like that. It's all self-defense. Every class starts with me talking about mindset or a scenario in the news. And we talk about getting our head on straight. And then it's teaching the Spear System and the movements, everything from standing, de-escalation, nonviolent postures, right down to the ground, weapon considerations, multiple assailant considerations, all of that. And I hated the word garage. And I surveyed my group. I said, like a lot of people, like they thought we were like doing like Olympic lifts and curls and doing like a garage gym. And I said, I'm going to change the name. And 2 people from Europe said, the origin of the word garage, it's from French, to shelter, to protect. And I didn't realize that. And it was nice serendipity. Now I love the name again, because the garage is the place we would gather from the storm or from the violence. We would meet in the garage, and it was a place to shelter and to protect people. And so I love that now. So if you're interested in you can't get to me because of geography, check that out. We revamped our websites. So my main website that shows all the stuff we do is BlauerTrainingSystems.com. My last name, Blauer, Blauer, systems.com. And that'll give you a link to all the stuff we do. But, I've got trainers all over the world, and we do stuff for, we do free training for public safety professionals. We're there to help. This is my passion. I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this for 43 years. I have more energy now and more passion about this now than I ever have. So, let us know how we can help you. We're there for you.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you for joining us as well, folks. Again, you can follow us every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. with special guests every week. Next week, by the way, I just remembered on Monday, 12 p.m. Pacific time, we have Sheriff Lamb from Live PD will be here to talk about the border. Of course, every guest is subject to change. You never know with schedules and whatnot, but we're having a host of guests as we're setting up for the month of November. Hopefully you enjoy these shows. Let us know. Share, subscribe, hit that like button. We truly appreciate the like buttons. Help us with our algorithms to get this message out. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll catch you tomorrow.